The white dress. This story is about my friend's mother-in-law and her wedding. Strap in, guys, this is a wild ride in which I did the thing that got me banned from any of her family functions, plus a few threats of dismemberment and bodily harm. A good friend of mine from university was getting married. They'd been a couple since junior year of college, through her 2 years in the Peace Corps, and currently her return to this continent. That's 6 years in total. She'd been to all manner of family functions, and always came back with a strange story about how she thinks her mother-in-law secretly hates her. But, her being a very quiet and sweet person, she pushed those thoughts aside. Point 1. She is vegetarian and Jewish. Her husband is not. She was invited and went to Christmas dinner and figured she would just eat sides. As well, she brought a vegetarian casserole. Her mother-in-law, after knowing her for 3 years and being told by her husband a few weeks before to not forget that she doesn't eat meat, proceeded to put meat on every dish. My friend drank water and ate her casserole the whole night, while her mother-in-law cried to everyone that she was so rude for not eating her cooking. Anyways, back to the story. A few friends and I were asked to go to the wedding. My friend has a huge family, and so we knew this was not going to be a small affair. Neither of them are particularly religious, but my friend said it would be nice to be married under a hoopah. Think an arbor, but 4 poles and covered with a white cloth and lots of flowers. Husband-to-be said he could care less and told her to go and rent one for the wedding. I was at the bridal shower when the mother-in-law found out that the pretty canopy was actually a hoopah. She almost lost her mind in front of a bunch of people, but managed to compose herself and laugh angrily that, if the Jews were being represented, so would the Catholics. In my head, I heard a record screech. Guys, they aren't Catholic. So after much fighting, a lot of screaming, crying, threatening to pull money, which is funny because she contributed nothing, the mother-in-law lost. The boot was firmly placed and nothing was moving it. Hoopah yes, Catholic priest no. Things got stupid quiet. My friend texts me the night before the wedding that she has a bad feeling. I tell her it's probably just nerves. She's getting married and this is a big deal. Oh, how wrong I was. We all show up and get our hair and makeup done. We slip into our bridesmaid dresses and hang out waiting for the bride to be finished with her hair. She makes a comment saying that she hadn't seen her mother-in-law all day and that she skipped her hair and makeup appointments. We all side-eyed each other, took a few sips of wine, and hoped the eerie feeling would go away. 30 minutes later, as we're helping the bride into her dress, guess who shows up? If you guess mother-in-law-to-be, you win a cookie. Flush from coming up the stairs, she's not a light woman, in full hair and makeup, and a white dress. Not ivory, not cream, full snow frickin' white. The dress was clearly a wedding dress. It was even from David's bridal, which she would later shout at me. Floor-length satin with a sweetheart beaded top, a bit of a train, and off-white lace on the bottom. The dress was even tailored to her. This has been a long con that she's orchestrated. The bride burst into tears, and aunts and friends ushered the mother-in-law out. We did our best to console the bride, touched up her makeup, and I made a promise that the dress would never be seen in a photo. She looked me dead in the eye and nodded. The game was on. The venue only supplied white wine and champagne for the wedding party, but I grabbed my purse and ran down into the reception area. I managed to flag an attendant by the bar and bribe him with a cool $20 to give me a bottle of red early. I cracked the baby open, filled a solo cup to the brim with it, and stalked outside. After a few swigs from the bottle for courage, I went over to where everyone was getting ready to take photos. With one last hard stare at my friend, I got her nod of approval. I pulled out my phone, held it in front of my face like I was reading a text, and walked straight in to the mother-in-law-to-be. I poured the entire cup of red wine down the front of her dress, jumped back, and gasped. The look on her face was murderous. She screamed, yelled, threatened, and promised she would sue me. People had to hold her back because she wanted to fight me. Eventually, she switched from screaming to sobbing and sank to the ground, throwing a tantrum on the floor. Everyone moved back and just let her go at it and walked away to go and take photos. It was surreal, as if everyone just hit their limit and noped out from around her. The 12-year-old flower girl whipped out her phone and snapped a few photos, much to our amusement. This is already super long, but I will say that the mother-in-law went home and changed, only 20 minutes from the venue, into a nice dark green, too small and low-cut dress. Because of this, she missed all of the photos. The wedding was beautiful. I did get death glares from everyone she told that I attacked her with wine, but no Fs were given as I drank and danced with friends. The bride thanked me in secret, and 3 months later took me to the spa for a day of pampering. But I am officially that ISIS idiot to the mother-in-law, and I'll take it with pride. You are the ultimate hero. How did your friend's husband react to the white dress? Also, how did the mother-in-law try to justify wearing white? I will loudly applaud every single member of every wedding party everywhere that sabotages a mother-in-law wearing white when said mother-in-law knew it would annoy the bride and that the bride was already wearing whites. Mother-in-law's neglect killed my child. Now she thinks I'll let her around my second child. My mother-in-law was guilty in the death of her grandchild, my daughter. She was 2 years old at the time, and my husband and me let my mother-in-law babysit her while we were busy with job-related things. It was summertime, and they were staying in my mother-in-law's house that has a pond next to it. My daughter loved water. Bath time was her favourite time of the day. They were playing at the edge of the pond, and then my mother-in-law remembered she had to take clothes out of the dryer, and she left a 2-year-old alone next to the quite large body of water. My daughter's childlike curiosity plus her love for water resulted in her getting into the deep part of the pond and drowning. All because my mother-in-law considered clothes in the dryer an important enough reason to leave a toddler unsupervised. Then she realized what had happened. She started to panic and call for help. Her neighbor heard her. They got into the pond and called an ambulance, but it was too late. Imagine what it's like for a parent to come to the person you trusted your child with and they tell you your child is dead. And my mother-in-law was begging us not to involve the police in this. She kept repeating it was an accident and she doesn't know how it could have happened. I was only gone for a moment. I feel even worse than you do. And calling the police won't bring her back. We did call the police, of course, and she was charged with criminal negligence and sentenced to 3 years in prison, which, in my opinion, was too light of a punishment. Now, recently my mother-in-law was released from prison, and my husband was the first person she looked for contact with. He never once visited her while she was imprisoned. Yes, unintentionally, but she did cause the death of our child by neglecting her duties as a babysitter. It doesn't matter that she served her sentence, neither I or my husband will ever forgive her for this. Neither has she asked for forgiveness. All she gave us were excuses and more excuses. In the courtroom, my husband told her she's not his mother anymore, that she's dead to him and that he never wants to see her face again. Our marriage was damaged too. We were depressed, we fought a lot. There were times when we were on the brink of divorce. We separated for a while. I left for another country thinking that this is it for us. However, my husband came to look for me and we managed to save our family and continue our life together. I couldn't bring myself to have any more children for a long time, but eventually I got pregnant again and last summer we welcomed our son. He's 9 months old now. Obviously, we weren't going to tell my mother-in-law that we're parents again, but she saw us walking with a baby stroller and realized that once more she has a grandchild. So she tried to get in contact with my husband. First, she reproached him for not visiting her. Cried about how hard it was for her to spend all those years behind bars, that she shouldn't have been in the prison because she's too old for that. How could he do this to his own mother? How could he abandon her? Then she was like, "But I saw you have a new baby. I'm so glad I have a grandchild again." And then she went on about, is it a boy or a girl? When will she be able to see them and meet them? Because she wants to take care of them so much. My husband told her immediately that she doesn't have anything. This is our child and ours only. Our son doesn't have a grandmother. We'll be telling him this as he grows up. And he will never ever in a million years be anywhere around her. We're 100% on the same page about this. The loss of our daughter still hurts, and we're going to do the impossible to protect our son from her. He doesn't need an irresponsible grandmother who would likely endanger his life just like she did with his sister. My mother-in-law was shocked to hear this and began to wail about us being so evil and cruel towards her, that we're going to hold that against her forever even though she paid for it, and we cannot be so heartless to prevent her from seeing her grandchild. But what was she thinking? What was she hoping for? That we're really going to let her around our baby? That we'll ever trust her with babysitting again? Honestly, I'm not sure if I can leave my son with any babysitter. I don't trust babysitters anymore. Because if a grandmother can be careless enough to let a child die, who knows what an unrelated person could do. So, my husband told her firmly that she'll have no access to the baby, and he doesn't want to talk to her either. So, now that she's out of the prison, she should do something useful with her life and leave us alone. My mother-in-law wasn't having it. That evening, she came to our house asking to see her grandchild again. We didn't let her come in, obviously, and she got mad, claiming that as a grandmother, she has rights to meet her grandchild. We told her that she lost all her rights to our children when she let our daughter drown. If trust is broken, it cannot be repaired, and there are some things that just cannot be forgiven. My mother-in-law then told us that she'll go to court and demand legal permission to meet the baby. I'm not sure if there is such a thing, but if it's true, I highly doubt she'll get it, considering her criminal record. If we need to go to court and prove she's not the type of grandmother you should let around your child, we will do it. If she comes back again, we'll call the police. If we need to leave this country and go live somewhere else just to be away from her, we'll do it too. Nothing is impossible. I'm amazed at the shamelessness of her. She knows very well she tore apart our lives 3 years ago. No parent should bury their child, but we had to because of her. And now she comes to us as if she's the best relative ever, as if nothing ever happened. I am so sorry for the loss of your precious daughter. It must have been even more painful knowing that a family member was responsible. Frankly, that woman should be told to spend the rest of her life getting clothes out of the dryer, because that is what she chose over your daughter's life. Congratulations on your baby boy, by the way. I hope he's able to bring joy back into your lives.